They pulled into the parking lot of Paws and Claws 10 minutes late. Lindsay reached for the glove box. The spring inside the latch had been weak for years, so the compartment opened only when struck in precisely the right place. Lindsay pressed the button once. Nothing happened. She tried again, harder. From the passenger seat, Daphne began to whine. "Don't start." Daphne placed one paw on the glove box and pushed. The door dropped open, spilling 3 years of automotive history onto the floor. An expired insurance card, 2 old registrations, a pair of sunglasses with one missing arm, and the small scissors Lindsay had spent most of last summer accusing everyone else of losing. "There they are," she muttered. Daphne plunged her nose into the mess. Lindsay pulled her back by the collar and searched for the vaccination record the obedience trainer had asked her to bring. She had put it in the glove box that morning. She distinctly remembered doing so, which meant it could now be anywhere. Behind them, a car honked. Lindsay looked in the mirror. She had stopped in the lane instead of pulling fully into the parking space. "Fine. I hear you." She eased forward. The moment the car stopped, Daphne climbed over the center console, stepped on the horn, and barked at the noise she had made. The driver behind them stared. Lindsay smiled apologetically and gave a little wave. Happy, healthy dog. The driver did not appear reassured. She found the vaccination record beneath the passenger seat, folded it into her purse, and clipped the leash to Daphne's collar before opening either door. She had learned that lesson in March. "Listen to me," she said, holding the dog's face between her hands. "We are going inside. You are going to behave like a civilized animal. No jumping, no barking, no stealing. And absolutely no." Daphne licked her across the mouth. Lindsay wiped her lips with the back of her hand. "That!" The dog shot out as soon as the door opened, nearly pulling Lindsay into the neighboring car. She bounded toward a shopping cart, sniffed a concrete post, circled a decorative shrub, and froze at the sight of a plastic bag tumbling across the pavement. For one beautiful second, she was completely still. Then the bag moved. Daphne lunged. "Leave it!" The dog pursued the bag with the focused determination of an animal bred for an important purpose, although no one had yet discovered what that purpose was. Lindsay caught up beside the cart return and stepped on the trailing end of the leash. Daphne reached the limit at full speed. Her legs went out from under her, but she rolled once, sprang upright, and looked delighted by the experience. "Are you trying to kill me?" Lindsay asked. Daphne wagged her entire body. The parking lot was unusually crowded. A banner above the store entrance announced a weekend pet adoption event. Volunteers had set up folding tables along the sidewalk, and every table offered something Daphne considered essential. Dog biscuits, tennis balls, water bowls, squeaking toys, and frightened animals in portable cages. Lindsay tightened her grip on the leash. "Stay with me." Daphne pulled left. "No." Daphne pulled right. "Daphne." A volunteer held out a biscuit. "Can she have one?" Before Lindsay could answer, Daphne stood on her hind legs and took it. The volunteer laughed. "She's enthusiastic. That's the polite word." They made it through the front doors with only one overturned water bowl and an apology to a chihuahua. Inside, the store was worse. Every shelf seemed arranged at nose height. Open bins held treats in shapes and colors that Lindsay found mildly alarming. A display of rubber frogs squeaked whenever anyone walked past it. Daphne stopped pulling. Lindsay looked down at her. The dog's ears lifted, her head tilted. The frog squeaked again. "No!" Daphne launched herself at the display. Rubber frogs scattered across the aisle. Each one squeaked when it hit the floor, which excited Daphne further. She pounced on the nearest frog, making it squeak repeatedly beneath her paws. A young employee appeared at the end of the aisle. Lindsay held up one hand. "I'm handling it." The employee watched Daphne seize a frog and shake it hard enough to strike herself in the face. "Is that your dog?" "No," Lindsay said. "I found her in the parking lot." The employee looked at the leash in Lindsay's hand. "Yes," she admitted. "She's mine." Together they returned the frogs to the display. Lindsay paid for the one Daphne had covered in saliva and tucked it into her purse. The frog squeaked. Daphne stared at the purse. Forget it. The obedience consultation was being held in a small training area at the back of the store. A waist-high gate separated it from the sales floor. Inside, 6 folding chairs formed a semicircle around a woman in khaki pants and a polo shirt embroidered with the words "Good Choices Canine Training." 5 dogs sat quietly beside their owners. Daphne barked at all of them. The trainer looked at the clock, then at Lindsay. "You must be Daphne. I'm Lindsay. I was talking to the dog." "Oh," Lindsay took the remaining chair. Daphne circled it twice, wrapped the leash around Lindsay's ankles, and then crawled underneath. The trainer introduced herself as Marcy. She explained that the consultation would help identify each dog's triggers, motivations, and problem behaviors. "What tends to excite Daphne?" Marcy asked. Lindsay considered the question. "Movement, sounds, people, animals, objects. Anything more specific? Things she can see." One of the other owners laughed. Lindsay glanced beneath her chair. Daphne was chewing the strap of her sandal. "And some things she can't." Marcy crouched a few feet away. "What do you normally do when she becomes excited?" "I tell her to calm down." "Does it work?" "No." "What do you do then?" "I say it louder." Marcy nodded as if this answer was both common and unfortunate. "And when that doesn't work, I distract her. With food. Sometimes. Attention. Yes. Toys, if there's one nearby." So when Daphne becomes excited, she gets food, attention, or a toy. Lindsay opened her mouth, then closed it. Under the chair, Daphne stopped chewing and rested her chin on Lindsay's shoe. Marcy smiled. "She may think excitement is the correct behavior. That seems like a design flaw. It's learned behavior." I liked design flaw better. They began with a simple exercise. Lindsay was to hold a treat in her closed hand and wait. The moment Daphne stopped pawing, licking, or biting at her fist, Lindsay would mark the quiet behavior with the word "yes" and give her the treat. Daphne attacked the hand as if trying to open a stubborn jar. Lindsay endured this for several seconds. "Tell her no," she said. "Don't say anything," Marcy replied. "Let her work it out." Daphne pawed harder. "She's going to take my finger off." "She won't." "You sound very confident for someone whose fingers aren't involved." Then Daphne sat. It happened so abruptly that Lindsay nearly missed it. One moment the dog was fighting for the treat. The next she was on the floor looking up expectantly. "Yes," Marcy whispered. "Yes," Lindsay said and gave Daphne the treat. Daphne swallowed it and immediately assaulted her hand again. They repeated the exercise. The second sit came sooner. The third came almost at once. Lindsay stared at the dog. "You knew how to sit." Daphne wagged her tail. "She's learning that calm behavior gets her what she wants," Marcy said. "The important part is consistency. Everyone in the house has to follow the same rules." Lindsay thought of David slipping food beneath the dinner table. She thought of Alora encouraging Daphne to chase them through the hallway. Most of all, she thought of Alora coming through the front door every afternoon, dropping her backpack, falling to her knees, and shouting the dog's name until Daphne became a tornado. "That could be a problem," Lindsay said. "Why?" "My daughter." At the word daughter, Daphne's ears rose. Lindsay noticed but continued. "Alora gets her worked up. The two of them feed off each other." Daphne sprang to her feet. "No, Daphne." The dog began scanning the room. Lindsay realized her mistake. "Alora isn't here." Daphne barked. Every dog in the circle looked toward the door. "Alora isn't here," Lindsay repeated. The barking became frantic. Daphne pulled toward the gate, certain that the person associated with wrestling, treats, open doors, and unrestrained celebration must be somewhere in the store. Several of the other dogs joined in. Marcy raised her voice over the noise. "Is her name a trigger? I'm beginning to think so." "Stop repeating it." "Right." Daphne strained against the leash. Lindsay reached for her, then stopped. Picking her up would give her attention. Yelling would add more noise. A treat offered now would reward the barking. For once, Lindsay did nothing. She planted both feet, held the leash, and waited. Daphne barked again. Lindsay waited. The dog whined. She searched the room one more time, then looked back at Lindsay. Lindsay held out a closed hand. Daphne pawed at it. She waited. Daphne sat. "Yes," Lindsay said quietly. She opened her hand and gave the dog a treat. The room settled. One by one, the other dogs quieted too. Marcy smiled. "There you go." Lindsay looked down at Daphne, who was sitting with such perfect innocence that no one entering the room at that moment would have believed a word against her. "You have been playing me," Lindsay said. Daphne's tail swept the floor. After the consultation, Lindsay bought a pouch of training treats and the least embarrassing treat bag she could find. At the register, the young employee who had helped with the frogs looked at Daphne. "She seems calmer. She's manipulating me." The employee nodded gravely. "They do that." Outside, the adoption event was still in full swing. A volunteer dropped a tennis ball. A child ran past with a pinwheel. Somewhere nearby, a terrier began barking at a balloon. Daphne's body tensed. Lindsay felt the leash tighten. She stopped walking. Daphne pulled once, then looked back. Lindsay waited. The dog's front paws danced against the pavement. Her eyes darted from the ball to the child to the barking terrier. Every part of her trembled with the effort of remaining where she was. Then, slowly and with obvious reluctance, Daphne sat. "Yes," Lindsay said. She gave her a treat. They made it to the car without overturning anything. Lindsay opened the passenger door. Daphne jumped inside, circled the seat, and settled down. For nearly 5 seconds, the car was silent. Lindsay climbed behind the wheel and closed the door carefully, afraid that any sudden movement might break the spell. "Well," she said, "look at you." Daphne rested her chin on the center console. Lindsay started the engine. Her phone connected to the car, and a message began playing through the speakers. "Mom," Alora's recorded voice announced. "Where are you?" Daphne exploded into barking. Lindsay closed her eyes. "Of course," she said. "Alora."